Hey guys, Brendan with Whiskey River. I'm here with Ryan, and this is another Conversations with Friends. So we are again out at David Austin's place, the get-together that Travis Pennington went and put together for us. So yeah, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing, buddy?
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
We have not met in person. This
No.
is the first time amongst a lot of us. So what do you think? What do you think of this place?
I am still really taken aback by the fact that I even got invited.
Yes.
Like, this is just awesome.
Have you ever been to Missouri before?
No.
Yeah, first time in Missouri too.
Yeah.
It's humid today.
Yeah.
We just got done. We're sweaty. We just got done playing around with dropping trees with axes as a group of. Everyone takes a few swings, and it was fun. Good old time. And then we're gonna be going to pizza later. Sounds like so. I was wondering. I asked both Travis and David. I was like, if money's not an issue, what is your holy grail? It shows up, and it's available to you. It's offered only to you. What axe would you be like? 100% yes, I want it.
It's really hard because, right, like everybody, all the ones that I make in particular, they're all meant to be users. Mm-hmm. And they all have different specific uses. That's part of what I like about axes. You have your Connecticut patterns because the climate and the particular species of wood they were felling. Same thing as your Michigans and your Daytons and Jerseys and things like that. But if I really had to pick one, like, white whale axe, it would probably be a Kelly registered Connecticut. But it had what would be so special about it is if the serial number on it was actually like new old stock.
Oh, like visible. Yeah.
Because most of those ones I feel like either the bit is destroyed, or it'll have the beautiful Kelly registered stamp with the number, and then it's all just washed out.
Yeah, I feel like the people who were in charge of writing the numbers were like, meh, this doesn't have to be that deep.
They were all done at Friday at like 2 p.m.
Exactly. Yeah, it was like the end of the week project was engraving axes. Do you find people don't know this about you? I guess you're from New Hampshire, or you live in New Hampshire.
Yep.
From where are you from?
Oh, I'm from Buffalo, New York.
Buffalo, New York.
Yep.
Do you, which is both those places are somewhat close to Connecticut.
Yep.
Do you find Connecticut's in the wild?
I find way more Connecticut's in the wild than most people, right?
Because I feel like you have a decent amount of Connecticut's for the size of your collection.
And that's not even all of them.
Yeah, I can imagine.
There is a lot of that kind of comes down to the fact that they are my favorite pattern. So they're
you're like searching
what
for
I'm
them.
looking for.
Yeah.
But being in that kind of New England area, it's definitely a lot easier to find them. Reaching out to people through social media and things like that. Mm-hmm. When I ask about certain ones that I see that are listed, and they're like, "Oh, I only have one Connie," and I see their collection's massive. I'm like, "How do you not have more?"
And they're from that region?
No, they'll be from like the West Coast or
Yeah, it's just like they're not out there.
yeah. They can't get them. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure similar to like how we can't get like Puget Sounds
Right,
over
right,
here,
right.
or well on the East Coast.
Yeah, on the East Coast. Yeah, I don't. I've never found a Connecticut in the wild in Wisconsin. It's such a easy axe to spot when it's at a when you're at an antique mall or you're at a garage sale or something. So yeah, I saw the amount of Connecticut's you have. Obviously, knowing that you're into them, it's like, are they more common near Connecticut?
Yeah, well, I told you about how I got that almost brand new True Temper Flint Edge with the wood fire hardened handle. Was just a Facebook Marketplace listing from a guy that worked, or rather lived in, the city just south of us.
And was he listing that as a Connecticut, or was it just an axe? It was just like axe for sale.
It was axes.
Oh, axes, yeah.
And it was that. It was the Collins Legitimus Old Timer Dayton, and then there was just a couple other small things.
Oh, cool. So is that I know that the New Hampshire area, the upper East Coast is very manufacturing rich, tool rich, due to the fact that we had a lot of manufacturers based out of there in the early 1800s. Is it common for you to be able to go to an auction or a sale or something and just have like piles of different hand tools, or is this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I would
And a
love
lot
to
of
go
that,
to one of those.
a lot of that too is just the fact that, right, like, it's old. Like everything in New England,
Yeah.
it's the
Way
oldest
older
part of
than
the country.
here. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't ever. When I lived in Virginia for a little bit, I was always shocked when someone would be like, "Oh yeah, this house was built in 1810 or 1800." It's like,
and when you walk through those houses, like if they're doing an open house because you're looking at purchasing, go into the basement, and it's like a 3-foot grade change of a dirt / sand gravel basement with all the original granite that they just couldn't get through because it was ledge that they found. So they decided that was going to be part of the foundation. You look up and the floor joists
just sit on top of rocks.
still have bark on them, and they're just like giant, like knotty pines that they
Wow.
fell.
Yeah, and they're in a dry crawl space,
Yep.
so they're gonna last forever. Do you? How old's the house you live in?
Newer, it was built in the 80s.
Okay, yeah. Did you grow up in an old house?
Part of it, we moved a bunch. I lived in a bunch of different houses. We had one super old farmhouse that we lived in that was awesome, but that was in Western New York. That was probably the oldest one. But yeah, since moving to New Hampshire, we've been in our house now for 8 or 9 years, and it's just a cookie cutter development house that we could afford
Right.
at the time. Split
Yeah.
level. The basement was remodeled, so we have extra living space, and that's where the shop is.
At times, it's better to have a house that's not built in the early 1800s. So it can have its downside.
Honestly, right? Like I was in construction before getting into, before the career change, and like we would do remodels on some of these really old houses, and the wall thickness is different. So the new style windows that are made to fit in a normal 2x6 framed wall, like they don't work as well. So there's other tricks and workarounds you have to do with them.
Yeah.
It's a pain in the butt.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, especially it's like you open up the wall and you find out it's a log.
Yep.
It's like a log wall.
Yep.
You wouldn't know from the outside because it's cladded in vinyl siding. But
Or like you'll have a layer of horsehair plaster that is strapping screwed to it, and then modern half-inch sheetrock on top of that.
Yeah.
It's just like you're looking at the jamb of the door, and you're like, why is this
so thick.
like 12 inches deep?
because it's literally got that much material
Yeah.
in it. Yeah. What got you into axes?
I mean, I've been swinging them since I was little, right? The old house that I told you about, we heated the whole farmhouse. The style of it was typical farmhouse. The main house was built, and then as the family grew, they just started adding pieces to it, and the whole house heated with one wood-burning stove. That was in a really bad spot to heat the house in.
Yeah.
And we'd fell and cut and split all over on wood, and it was never with anything nice. It was
Hardware store stuff?
hardware like Tractor Supply, Polar chainsaws, and fiberglass handled like
Splitting
true
malls.
craft splitting. You're like nothing nice.
Yeah. So you learned how to do the wood thing, the free heat thing, without the
Free heat.
without the quality of having tools that are actually like good for it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Did you grow up around? So did you grow up around vintage tools or anything like that? I'm trying to.
Kind of. So my grandfather and my great grandfather, they had a lot of old stuff. Like my great grandpa had loam, not a loam. The rug. What are the things for making rugs?
Loom. Loom,
He had
yep.
a loom. He'd make his own rugs.
Crazy.
Stuff like that. My grandfather on my father's side, similar, would have old wood hand planes and stuff like that. And he had the shop, the typical shop that everybody knows.
Yeah.
It's the giant, like 8x8 central work table / bench that's just 2 solid core doors as the top.
Yeah.
And on the wall there's the old pickle jars with the screw up through the cap of them, with just full of washers and nuts and
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah.
Oh, was he Depression era? Was he that old? Was that like the Depression era guys were like, they keep nails, they
Yeah.
straighten nails.
My great grandfather was my grandfather. Both my grandfathers, my mother's side and my father's side, were both just cheap.
Just cheap. Yeah. Frugal and cheap. Yeah, that's awesome. And you're a fireman, so you use axes every once in a while.
Yeah.
Not often.
No, predominantly now, like the axes that we're going to be using mostly the flat end of just a
It's
normal.
basically a hammer.
Yeah, you're using it as a striking tool.
Yeah.
To drive your Halligan, things like that. Right. You can use the handle for sweeping, for searching, if you're going in through like a window. Generally
Like
speaking.
smoke-filled room. You're
Yep.
trying to like
You'll
bump something.
You'll do what's called sounding before you go in, where you'll take and you'll hold. Ugh, Council tools, flying fox. The handle, and when you reach in, you'll slam the head of it into the ground, and you're sounding the floor, and you can feel if the floor is starting to deteriorate, if there's like
yeah.
a basement fire.
Yeah.
Because there have been, unfortunately, cases where dudes have not sounded the floor right, and then just
Jump
gone
in.
into the window and fallen through into the basement. And
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
a good day.
Have you had any incidences in your department that's happened?
No, the big one that actually kind of got famous, well, not
Or in the crowd of you that you're
Yeah.
socializing in? Yeah.
captain on our department, Captain Steve DeRusso. He's got an incredible story. He travels around and does this really cool seminar called 10 Seconds or Less. And he does a really good presentation on his near miss. So in the fire service, you have your line of duty deaths, and then you have near misses. That's kind of like the two categories, and it's just a third party body that tracks these kind of things. And so he had a really significant near miss.
A near miss is like you don't die, but you get injured.
You almost died.
Okay, I gotcha. So you nearly missed dying.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
and I'll never ever in my life do his story justice because his
Yeah, of
presentation's
course,
incredible.
yeah. But look it up. I'm sure it's online. at
He
this point.
more or less there was an issue. There was entrapment, giant fire. Worst case scenario, like the district that it was in, the water supply was awful. The truck company was at the Elliott Hospital because one of the guys on shift that day got bit by a squirrel while they were trying to get it out of a tree because people called 911 and were freaking out, and they
Yeah.
did the right thing and
Yeah,
tried
yeah.
to mitigate that problem. So the truck company was responding from way farther away than they needed to be. Water supply was awful. I think the rescue company was also somewhere else. So the engine rolled up, had pump issues, on bad water supply. There was entrapment, and he
Meaning
ended
someone
up,
is stuck in the house.
Yeah, he ending up alone, trying to get these two people out. And when he was coming out of the window trying to bail out, his the waist strap on his SCBA, his air pack, flipped over and got stuck on a ladder, on the top of the ladder. So just the whole area that he was in flashed out.
Just flaming out the window.
Yep. Well, he's stuck in it. And he can't undo his waist strap because the buckle flipped over. He can't see anything other than pure
And
white.
his whole body weight's on it.
Yep. So it was just, he got real burnt. And the reason his presentation's called 10 Seconds or Less is because the rep for the company that manufactured them, the masks, the face piece, and the air packs, like they looked at it and they were like, you literally had less than 10 seconds before your mask completely failed and you would have died.
Wow.
So he got real burnt. He spent a lot of time in the burn ward at Boston.
Yeah. And now he travels around and talks to people.
He's still on the job. He's a badass.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Crazy. Sweet.
Yep, still works, still his shift work. He's awesome. Super good firefighter.
Yeah. And he's in your department?
Yep.
So you know him personally?
Yep.
Yeah. That's awesome. Voices of Jake's off screen right now, just unzipping his pants quick.
No, I'm not. So not.
We, how long have you been a fireman?
About 3 years, 3.5 years.
Okay. And full-time, not
Yep.
not a volunteer fire department. Full-time departments are relatively common in the region that you're in?
I feel like it's probably they're as common as most other places, right?
Okay.
A lot of the small towns and things like that will have combination departments. So they'll have like 2 full-timers on during the day, Monday through Friday, and then they will subsidize staffing with either a call department or a volunteer department. The only big difference is that call departments, you get paid when you're responding to the call in there. It's not a lot.
Yeah.
And then volunteers just purely volunteer.
Yeah. The department that's near us is a call department. So when you get called in, you start getting paid, which I didn't know existed. I thought volunteer fire, like they call them volunteer, but it's really that. But I always thought volunteer meant like you show up, you fight the fire, you go home.
Yep.
You know, like
Yeah.
it's on you. You know. Do you? I'm assuming that you're you get asked about axes, fixing up axes, restoring axes that are fire related now
Yep.
that you're a fireman. How's that go?
Well, one of the kind of unexpected things was like during the like getting everything ready, coming out of winter, early spring when you start to have some of your brush fires and things like that. You'll go through a whole just thorough check, making sure all your forestry equipment and things like that are like good and tuned and ready to go for brush season. And it was weird. This year was kind of the first year where my officer was like, "Hey, you're the axe guy, so go through all the hand tools on the forestry and fix any loose heads, put the right edges on them, clean them up, like do whatever you got to do your thing." And I was just like, "Wait, what? Like I get to do this at work?"
Yeah, and get paid. I don't have to mop the floors.
Yeah.
I get to fix the tools. Cool. Yeah. I do this in my free time anyway.
Yep.
That's awesome. Do you guys have like a shop in the fire department that you can like work on stuff, or is this a home project? You have to take them home?
No. So we have some hand tools and things like that. What I do a lot of times when I'm trying to do work on things is, like I have the little black moving blanket axe roll thing that I use.
Yeah.
And so we'll bring that in with some of the wax that I have and like a card scraper and rasp and stuff like that. But I actually got asked by our station captain to help with a project of making a really nice like full-size workbench that we can mount the vise that we have there and things like that too. So
you could actually do some relatively serious work.
yeah, I'll have some good stuff there.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. The local, I know it's totally different, but the Wildland buddy that I have in Wisconsin, he's got like a straight up like workshop for them to be like, but they've got like a bulldozer and you know all that. And I just never pictured a firehouse having a workshop, but then I'm like, dang, they probably need to be working on all this stuff. And
well, that's part of an interesting thing with the fire service that most people don't realize and most people don't even talk about is when you call 911 and dispatch doesn't know who to send because they've never come across this problem before, they send the fire department every time. So where like in the 80s and 70s and things like that, all firefighters did predominantly what they did was fight fires. Well, then you started having motor vehicle accidents that were happening with enough force to where there was entrapment. So now the fire department took on that responsibility of vehicle extrication. Fast forward, hazmat issues. They didn't know who to send. They sent the fire department. Now that's our responsibility. Gas leaks. So our scope of what we actually do has drastically widened. And so
equipment.
You got a lot of equipment you have to maintain.
And there's a lot of stuff in a fire department that needs to get fixed. I never thought about it until this conversation, but it's like everything's a moving part.
And we're really rough on stuff.
Yeah, it's like, there's fire involved. One
of my favorite jokes is, if you leave a firefighter in a sealed room with 2 bowling balls, when you come back, one's going to be snapped in half and the other one's going to be missing.
Yeah.
Like we're not gentle with our tools.
Yeah. So that's interesting. How does is there like a repair guy? Like does each station how does anything get fixed at a fire department?
So it just unfortunately because we live in a disposable world, more often than not stuff ends up just kind of getting replaced. There is a lot of stuff that does get maintained, and generally speaking, it's whoever at that station knows how to.
I gotcha. And I could see the replacement stuff, especially if your life depends on it. It's like you're not going to cobble this thing together if it's like you're using it in a fire that you could, if it failed again, it would be bad. Yeah. I don't know an example of something, but just say like Jaws of Life, thing. If you're like cobbling that thing together to keep it going, it's like you could. Yeah. That could be bad if it failed again on.
Well, and that's actually a good example because when you have a situation like that where there's entrapment and there's significant trauma to a patient, like literally seconds matter.
Yeah.
So if you're running haggard old hydraulic spreaders and cutters that are super dull or have a chip bit or
leaking hydraulic
fluid, and you're only getting half the crush that you need or half the spread that you need or whatever it would be, all that's doing is making a worse outcome for the patient, which at the end of the day, the majority of people that do this are doing it because they want to help people.
Yeah.
And understand that. And so within the department I'm on, we have nothing but support from our administration. They're awesome.
Yeah. So what you need, you get. Yeah. I'm sure that's not common in every part of the country or world. For fire.
Unfortunately, it's a money thing.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a board of selectmen or a mayor or whoever it would be in your town supporting you in your department, or you might just have awful people in the leadership and administration within your department. Like it's a nightmare.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. What's your schedule look like for that?
So New Hampshire, New England in general does it a little bit differently than some other places. It's pretty close, so we work a 24-hour shift. So we're at the firehouse for 24 hours, and then we're off for 3 days. I know our department does that as well as a bunch of others. Another schedule that's common in New Hampshire is 1 day on, 1 day off, 1 day on, and then 5 days off. Or a 1 day on, 2 days off, 1 day on, 4 days off.
Okay.
I like the 1-3 just because it's
consistent.
It's consistent.
It's rolling. So
Yeah.
your 3 might be a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You're getting off, but
I mean,
if you're used to it, it's fine.
I don't know a firefighter that knows what day of the week it is ever.
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah.
so.
Honestly, yeah. As a small business owner, I never know what day of the week it is.
We work holidays, we work weekends
exactly.
every day, and that's part of what I like about the 1-on-3 is right every day you go to work. If you don't have overtime, you get a 3-day weekend.
Yeah.
So that everybody that does their normal Monday through Friday 9 to 5, and they're like, oh, we have Friday off because of this observed holiday,
Yeah.
3-day weekend. I'm like,
Yeah,
that's
you're like-
every day I work.
Yeah, you work a day, guaranteed a 3-day weekend.
Unless you get forced.
Or you're trading days so you can get a 5-day weekend
Yep.
later. So that allows you a bunch of time at home, or to work on other projects or all of that with that style of schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's wild and awesome.
Yeah, right, most firefighters have 2 jobs. And I'm really hoping at some point the axes kind of are that for me. They, I think, definitely will be. What I'm kind of getting into right now in regards to time management is kind of finding that good work-life, home-life balance.
Yeah.
Because I have my 3-year-old and I have my 7-month-old.
Baby, yeah.
And so trying to make sure that my wife gets as much help as she possibly needs, as well as also make enough money to where like we can live comfortably.
Yeah.
It's an interesting balance because like anybody who has kids knows there are really good days where I could go spend 4 or 5 hours in my shop or pick up an overtime shift or whatever it be. And then there are days where if I spend 10 minutes in my shop, it's just everything falls apart.
Trying to get a tool for something, and it's like, it doesn't work.
And it's in no way a fault of the kids or my
Right.
wife or anything. It's just the nature of being a parent. Like,
And life.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Man, I'm yawning. We stayed up late.
we did.
Were
Were we
talking
till
about fire.
Till like
Yeah.
midnight last night?
Yeah, easy midnight. So, yeah, I can see that, and the style of tools and tool restoration that you're doing is definitely something that you can flex into or flex out of if if you're now responsible for taking your kids to school or if there's like little things like that, you'll be able to step back from it just a little bit and when you have time you can work on it.
Well, and that is one of the things that's really nice is like, to my wife's credit, she is arguably the best person I've ever met in my life. Extremely supportive, the best mom in the entire world. And because I have a big issue with like time blindness, when I get into a project, hours and hours will go by. So what I started doing was just setting like a timer on my Apple Watch for however long. And once it goes off, I'm like, come out of the shop, hey, how's everything going? Oh, it's fine. Okay, cool, I'm gonna go back to work.
Yeah.
Or, hey, how's everything going? I really need your help right now.
Yeah,
You got
gives
it.
Her, gives her the chance. It's interesting because my fireman buddy that I have been close with for quite some time. He cuts trees on his days off. Well, he's retired now, but when he was a fireman, he just retired. He cut trees on his day off, and it's like you can't not.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of the jobs I would assume that other firemen have are just like the dedication that they have to the fire department. It's they got to show up. They don't have that flexibility. So being able to work out of a shop at your house is pretty cool.
Super beneficial. There unfortunately are a lot of firefighters, not a lot, but there are enough firefighters where it's annoying that they give more of themselves to their other job than the fire service. So they'll be
Interesting.
at the firehouse, and generally speaking, it's dudes that are fairly senior. They've been on the job for a while, so they kind of get afforded a little bit more leeway. But they'll be like business owners. Say they're a firefighter, but they also own like a deck company, and they build decks on the side.
Which you definitely could do if you have 3 days off. Yeah.
Yeah, but like you'll see them at the firehouse, and you're trying to do your daily chores or maintenance on whatever it would be, and they're like, I got to take this phone call really quick, and then they're working. Basically, they're
Double dipping.
They're double dipping.
Yeah.
Which you're kind of afforded that opportunity, which is nice if it's not abused. And unfortunately, there are a handful of people in the fire service that very much abuse it.
Yeah, I can see that.
And that's frustrating.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's like you got to treat it like any other job. You can't be you can't work in a warehouse and take calls for your other business.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's just not how it works. But are you you drive a truck
So yeah, I'm on a pump, so I drive an engine.
and then you run a pump, like you're stationary on that truck once it's there, running the pumps, making
Yeah.
sure everything's going right.
Yep. So if you're driving, we call it the chauffeur position. If you're chauffeur, you're responsible for driving. You're responsible for assisting with patient care and things like that on med runs. And at fire scenes, you're the one that's going to be operating the pump, making sure all the hose lines are good, making sure that you're taking a feed. If, say, like if you show up to a fire and there's a hydrant in the front yard, you can secure your own water supply. But generally speaking, how our department does it with our SOGs is the second due engine will be the feeding piece. So they'll secure a water supply and they'll pump the attack piece, which is the first due engine.
The one that's close to the.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, like, you're responsible for taking the feed in from the water supply pump. Things like that. If you are at, but even that changes. If you're at, say, a high-rise operation, like 6-story apartment building.
Yeah.
As the chauffeur, your responsibility is elevator operator. So you'll go into the elevator, and your only job is to move people up and down floors
Just
and
click the
equipment up
button,
and down floors.
And you're the consistent guy that's there, and
Yep.
it's your responsibility.
So you'll capture the elevator, go inside, and then you're just driving people up and down. Instead of driving an engine, you're driving people.
And you how's the water getting anywhere?
Standpipes. So if you're ever in a fairly tall building.
I try to stay out of those.
Yeah. Well, you'll see on the outside of the building what's called the fire department connection. And there's a bunch of different kinds. In the city that I work in, we have either like a Stortz valve, or we'll have 2.5 couplings that come off of like a Y. So we'll use that, and that basically fills what's called the standpipe, which is a vertical pipe that runs in the stairwell normally. And so you'll go to the floor below the fire floor.
Below it.
Or
I guess
above-
you can't
yeah.
be above it. Well, and maybe you could
You
be.
can.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, this is all different based on department, based on SOG. So
And circumstance when you
Yep.
show up. Yeah.
So you can go floor above, floor below. I don't know how the departments do it. But you'll hook up, and then you'll stretch your hose line and charge it with water in the stairwell, and then make your entrance onto that floor.
Wow. And then just fight the whole floor
Mm-hmm.
as you go in. Wow.
Which, fortunately, most high-rise buildings are constructed with non-combustibles. So it's like cinder block walls and things like
and
that.
sprinkler systems.
And
like you were
and they're
talking about last
sprinkled.
night, Yeah.
So, like, even if an apartment is on fire, it's generally going to stay as a room and contents fire, because that's it. Like, it can't burn out through cinder block walls.
Yeah.
Now, I think what we're seeing a lot of, there's one going up in my district. It's all stick framed, and that's going to be a high rise.
Because it's cheaper. You think?
So much cheaper.
Yeah.
And that building is huge.
And building costs and all of that. We just have a 4-story apartment, bougie. I say it's a bougie apartment, but paper thin walls, of course, brand new that just went up, and it's like 120 units.
Yeah.
So it's long, and it's all stick built. Like when we was driving by, it's like all wood.
Well, that's one really interesting thing about like different regions and fire tactics. So like in Europe, they almost, I can't say that they never do because one, I haven't done enough research into it, but
Rumor has it.
they don't go interior for fires often because what buildings are made out of in Europe is stone because
yeah.
they didn't have the big timber like we did in the U.S.
And they're old. They're even
Yep.
older than what we're talking
Yeah.
about is out by you. It's like they could be from 1600.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're building with the materials that are around where they're building. So yeah, in America and in Canada, all these houses are stick framed with timber because we have a bunch of trees. They
Right.
don't there, right? Ireland, everything's made out of stone. And so
Right.
they are afforded the opportunity to just, you got a space heater in the corner of this bedroom, short, and now it caught the bedroom on fire.
Yeah.
Great. It's not spreading to anywhere else in the house, so we're just going to let it burn and protect the rest of the house from
Getting. Yeah.
from extension, basically.
And how do they do that? They're in the building? No, they don't enter.
They have weird nozzle setup things
Yeah,
where,
yeah.
like, it's like a 8-foot stick with a big like
Shower
fog
head.
shower head, basically, and they'll just pop the window and stick it in, and it's weird.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm sure that there's like a whole. I mean, I know there's science behind it, of course, but there's like a whole different regions, different techniques, all that, and it's got to be wild when you show up on scene to a fire that you're like mutual support, mutual aid, whatever they call that.
Yep, mutual aid.
Where like the department you're coming to support does certain things in like a completely different way, or has completely different equipment, or
And that is a weird thing. My engine is unofficially the mutual aid engine because of where we are in the district. So if another town, right, we're the biggest city in the state of New Hampshire. So
oh, interesting.
if we get called mutual aid to one of the smaller surrounding towns, like say Bedford, which is right next door, we go, and at that point, now the chauffeur doesn't need to worry about water supply or anything like that. He's just another dude to go make an interior push, which, because we have the reputation that we do within the state of being a
Good fire department.
very
yeah.
competent, skilled, and aggressive interior fire attack department. I have not experienced it, but I've heard enough stories to know they're true where like we'll show up and there will be a hose line charged and stretched to the front door, and the department
They're like,
whose town it's in they're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Like we just show up and they're like, hey, great, you guys are here? There's the hose line. Can you go take care of that for
They
us?
just like open the door for you. Have a good day.
You guys didn't want to take care of that? Okay, all right,
yeah,
yep.
got it. Yeah, that's funny. What are some besides fire and axes? What are some other hobbies you got?
I just like being outside.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of hiking. New Hampshire is great for outdoor activities. So we got a couple really good snowboarding mountains, really good hiking, snowshoeing. There are some, I wish the hunting was better, but it's just so overgrown. It's really hard to reach out and do any good like rifle hunting.
Yeah, yeah.
But
There's always bow.
great turkey hunting
Do
too.
you bow hunt?
Yep.
Yeah. Which I guess if it's thick,
Let me rephrase
bow
it.
doesn't really work that well.
I have not bow hunted since moving to New Hampshire, but I grew
Okay.
up bow hunting.
Okay, gotcha.
I have my bow. I target shoot all the time. I just don't have time.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
to go, hey, honey, I know, like, I just got off 48, and you've had the kids, and I'm sure you're tired and need a break. I'm gonna go spend 12 hours in the woods
Sitting against a tree.
doing nothing when I have all these other projects I have to do.
I
Also,
get
like,
it. I get it. Yeah.
it's just hard to justify.
Yeah, for sure. So we haven't known each other that long.
Yeah.
We met because Ryan here is the one who hooked us up with the files.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan found the deal on the files and kind of brokered it with us with Whiskey River, and we were able to make it happen. Appreciate that.
course.
Thank you. And you guys can thank him for for hooking us up because we get to pass that on to you guys. So that was kind of what opened my eyes up to the region of the style of your region of the country with the tool.
Yeah.
You know, like just random stuff like that seems to always pop up in that area.
Even that was just a weird kind of thing, right? Because it was shortly after kind of getting brought into the group. And when I saw the Facebook Marketplace listing, I reached out to everybody and more or less was like, hey, this is an awesome deal on American-made files. If anybody wants them, I'm not charging anyone. Just pay me what the files cost and shipping to get them to you, and I'll grab, if I need to grab 20 because everybody wants 2 or whatever.
Right.
Like I'll send them off, and then to be all of a sudden having that happen, I was like, this is very weird.
Yeah, that was a decent sized deal. Yeah. That doesn't really come across anybody's lap. Like I know you were like, this doesn't come across my lap, but it also doesn't come across our lap.
Yeah.
It's not like a common occurrence to have someone be like, here's 5,200 pounds worth of hand files.
Yep.
So and especially in the way that they were. It's not a lot of times that style of purchase for a business is through an auction.
Yep.
Like a big closeout
Yep.
and going out of business sale or going out of business auction or a liquidation sale of some sort. And that's just like Facebook Marketplace. And so it seems like Facebook Marketplace in your guys' area can have some winning strikes. Ours is terrible because we only have 14,000 people in our county.
Yeah.
So we don't have the population to have cool stuff. We've got garbage being schlepped.
I honestly don't even know what it is because, like, you can go on Craigslist, and there's 2 listings. There's nothing. Nobody in that area seems to want to use Craigslist or eBay really or anything. It's all seems like it's done through Facebook Marketplace.
Which is kind of the changing tides of the internet. Like Craigslist dominated. Well, eBay dominated in the late '90s and into 2012, 2015. They're still a powerhouse of a marketplace, but then Craigslist was in there from what? I don't remember when Craigslist was started. 04 maybe?
Yep. And then up until like 2012-ish.
Yeah, it started kind of tapering off in 2012, and then it was like by 2016 it was like Facebook is crushing it on the marketplace. And so, the gentleman that we got the files from is a tool collector and or just a collector, it seems.
He had everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. He talked to me on the phone. I never met the guy, but he seemed as though he was had an eclectic taste for unique things and tools.
Well, and I didn't even know that he had anything axe related. I answered the marketplace listing and was anticipating going to. He's like, I have some in my garage, but not all of them. And so I went to go look. He rolls up the garage door, and there's like 2 old oil barrels that still have like oil in them, full of axes. There's probably like 15 vices in a back corner, welding stuff, metal stock, old coins, random taxidermy thing, like everything. I don't think there was a single category of quote vintage items that he didn't have a quantity of, and good stuff too.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because those are just like, tiny little, not that he was like letting stuff go, but those are tiny little like honey holes that, eventually that stuff goes. And I just love going to those sales. I love going to the sales when the guy's like finally wanting to let some stuff go. And because I'm into pretty much everything, and we're in David's shop here, and it's like, you look at the walls, and, look behind us, we've got furs and an elk head above me, and, there's old signs on the walls, and it's just, I don't look at anything and be like, wow. Or I look at everything and I'm like, wow, that's really cool, you know? So, obviously David's probably got a little bit more of an aesthetic display of stuff than most of us do, but so the first axe you owned, what is it? Do you remember?
Nice one?
Well, I guess we could go nice one, but I was thinking more like, well,
it was a Fisker's hatchet.
A Fisker's hatchet.
Fisker's hatchet was the first one. Yeah.
With like the plastic.
Yep,
handle.
plastic. It was a 14-inch handle, just really cheap Fisker's hatchet, a little camp kindling splitter.
Can't break it.
No. and,
Impossible to break, pretty much.
It was my late father-in-law's. He gave it to me when he was still alive. He's like, I always used this when I was camping. I didn't know if you wanted it. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take it.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, used the snot out of it.
Sweet. How about the nicest? After Fiskars, like we talk about, a wooden handled axe.
Probably complete axe was probably originally we thought it was a Kelly wood slasher jersey pattern. After doing some digging and some research, found out it was actually a very late model Council Tools jersey rail splitter.
Oh, okay, yeah. So red still, and
Yep.
I don't know if they had ridges in the eye. Did they have ridges in the eye?
I don't know.
I don't think they did. Yeah. So that would have been the wood
Yep.
slasher versus, but have to take the handle off to really tell.
But there were wood slashers that didn't have ridges.
Yeah,
either.
there are. Yeah. And that's one thing that people like get so nerded out about and don't realize that like with anything, there's variants that aren't published
Yeah.
or consistent. Sometimes it's just like, well, the dyes were messed up that week and we just made ones without eyes
Well,
or
then
ridges.
the wood slasher debacle was, as far as I know, at some point there was a legal battle where for whatever reason, they just stopped putting the ridges because they were like, until the legal issue gets sorted out of who can actually copyright the ridges in the eye or patent it. Like nobody can do it. And then once it went and it ultimately got ruled in True Temper's favor, or Kelly Works True Temper, that's when they started getting them. So there's this weird, from what I read, I have no idea if it's true or not, but there's like a 2 to 4 year-ish, something like that
Small
window
thing, yeah.
where nothing that they made had ridges.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, it's cool that you got a council as your first your first complete axe.
Yeah, first nice one.
Yeah, nice one. Yeah. Let's see. I wanted to have you tell people where they can find you.
TikTok.
TikTok. That's the only platform you're on.
Yeah, I really want to
Congrats.
expand. I want to start doing some YouTube stuff, just a little bit more long form. And then also probably start an actual Facebook page because the Reels I hear have been doing awesome for people. But yeah, I always kind of wanted to get into content creation, but I kept putting it off. I had the mindset of this won't be successful unless X, Y, Z are all mapped out. I didn't want to be one of the channels that the first year of videos, the sound quality's awful, the video quality's awful, there's no flow to the videos, the editing sucks, this, that, and the other. So I had like a long list of things that I wanted to make sure I had like really dialed in and set before I tried.
Yeah.
I sent one of them to Joel, which was just going to be trying to figure out almost like a storyboard of this is the type of content I want to create and figure out shot angles. And he bullied me into posting it, and it started all of this.
Sweet.
So I'm not even grumpy about it.
How long have you been on TikTok?
4
posting?
5 months, something like that.
Yeah, it's relatively new.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were added into this group relatively soon after.
Real quick.
Yeah. YouTube Shorts have been doing pretty well for us. We post 3 a day we're doing, but it's just reposts from TikTok, and then the long form stuff like this I've been enjoying. It's once you get the editing down, it's really which is just trial and error really. It can be really fun to create the the video. So, and Facebook, we post reels on there, and we have our Facebook page. I go back and forth with Facebook. It's always interesting. You can post to the same exact video on TikTok, and you can post as you did on Facebook. And Facebook will be like, "You're the worst human on earth," and TikTok is like, "Heck yeah, man! Like I've always wanted to do that." Yeah. It's the same they're watching the same video, but the comment section is repeating this and this. So I just post on Facebook. I don't interact with on the business page. I don't interact. I just put it on there. If it does well, it does well. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
I have a theory behind it, right? The people that tend to be the ones that are kind of shitty and just want to be internet trolls and post a bunch of negative comments and things like that aren't on TikTok because they tend to be a little bit of the older demographic.
Yeah, yeah.
And TikTok
And they don't
is,
create.
Yeah.
They're not like Facebook is a.
Yep.
Facebook is the average user on Facebook is consuming content.
Yep.
And the average user on TikTok, even if they're making content terribly,
Yep.
or in an algorithm sense, right?
Yep.
Like no views, or even you'll come across a TikTok account that's got like just pictures,
Yep.
and it's like you can tell they don't grasp it.
Yep.
But the last thing they want in their comment section is people talking
Yep.
smack. So there's a
mutual
it's
respect.
it's like a mutual respect, no different than you're sitting next to each other, which I really like. And Facebook is like, this is not a person that I'm talking to,
Yep.
so I'm going to gut this not person,
Yep.
which there is a person. So I end up not, and also Facebook, if you're not a creator and you don't create media at all, you end up, I would assume you end up having this notion that little effort went into making it.
Yeah.
So you can talk smack about it.
Mm-hmm.
When I look at a video and it's something that I'm like, I'm not too big into the thing they're talking about, or they did this wrong, but I like the idea that they took the time to make the content, and I respect that.
One of the things that I've noticed since I've started doing the content creation is I've held people way less accountable for maybe misspeaking or misremembering something,
Right.
because I've noticed I've done it myself.
Yeah,
I'm
Loom. We just did it. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
you're telling a story about something that
Mm-hmm.
is really pertains to this, and you misremember something that you read, or you say something wrong, and then you get slammed in the comments like, this dude doesn't know what he's talking about, ha ha ha, blah 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 blah. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, I do, I promise. I just misspoke or I misremembered.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and having that experience has definitely made me watch content differently, because
Yeah.
now I'm like,
He just misspoke. He probably just misspoke.
He seems like he knows what he's talking about. I'm
Yeah.
not going to just assume that he doesn't because of this one thing.
Yeah, right. Because you go back and watch all of his other videos, and he doesn't misspeak on that topic or whatever. Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree, and I'm enjoying your content. I really like it. I like the axe wall and it's got a. You can tell that you did focus on early on the camera angles. And
Yep.
the kind of like, I'm assuming, laying out your shop in some way that helps you shoot.
Yeah, and that's one of the projects that I've been working on a lot lately, is moving things around, because I wasn't happy with some of the shot angles. But when I was happy with the shot angle, I wasn't happy with the backdrop. So trying to figure out, shot angle I like, okay, backdrop sucks. How do I make the backdrop better? Okay, well now I need to move stuff that might affect the flow of the shop and how I work. So now I need to figure out the solution to that of like, okay, well if I move these things here, that might actually improve the workflow and allow me to make a better backdrop for this one camera angle that I like.
Yeah.
And it's a game for sure.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that we respect when we watch a video. It's like
Yeah.
the guy might have said the wrong word, but like he's got lighting, he's got like multiple camera angles. He obviously spent time putting together the script.
Yeah.
It's like you can't hate on this guy because he spoke one word wrong. Yeah, I agree. So, all right, well, let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
Thanks for
I appreciate
thanks
it,
for
buddy. Thank you.
sitting down and having the conversation.
Yeah.
And it was really nice meeting you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and thanks for all the conversations this weekend.
Yeah.
So, until next time, I'm Brandon,
Ryan?
and be good, guys.